far surpassing the expectations of their creator. The Wayfarer had ultimately swayed the course of history. Arthur, true to his word, began the process of establishing a true representative democracy. For better or worse, the fate of London would be tied to the will of the people. Camelot continued to fight the enemies of democracy wherever they found them, ensuring fair and free elections in the region. Smythe was imprisoned indefinitely, pending investigations into their activities. They were put under strict surveillance, with a guard passing by their cell every hour. At midnight, on the 7th day of their incarceration, the guard passed by their cell to find it empty. A wide-scale search was carried out, but yielded nothing. Nowhere to be found, Smythe had seemingly vanished into the shadows. The Wayfarer, remembered as Gaheris in the new legend of the Round Table, was honored for generations to come, not as an individual, but as a part of something greater. The Tommies continued to report to the government, with a new charter outlining their role in a true democratic society. With Pete Davies at the helm, the Roundels rebounded. After cleaning up the few straggling hooligans, their club sprang back to life, though with tamer partying, because, thanks to a newly, mostly sober Davies. The Pistols of Camden embraced the future with cautious optimism. While life in Camden didn't change all that much, the rest of London adopting a way of life similar to their own was reassuring. Following the Battle of Westminster, the Camden Council discussed the Wayfarer's actions in depth. The Wayfarer was declared an honorary member of the Council for their involvement in the uprising. For the time being, Miller's men were left alone. They were deemed too much of a hassle to deal with, and Islington was blockaded. While they would occasionally sneak out and attack neighbouring boroughs, their rage, for the most part, turned inwards. With no outlet for their fury, this spawned a culture of infighting. Gangs of Miller's men would beat each other to the death over trivial matters. Fortunes were lost and won at a swing of a fist. Only one thing united them: their devotion to their leader, Miller. The Normans rolled their dice at destiny, but came up with only snake eyes. Their attack on Westminster was short-lived, going completely unnoticed during the chaos at the Battle of Westminster. Due to a severe error in trajectory, their artillery fired directly into the air at a 90-degree elevation angle. It landed directly onto their own vessel, a successful and fatal hit. Traders came and went, but the Croydonians rarely crossed the bridge that had been built for them. They regarded the rest of the world with disinterest, and they were better off for it. The Tommies never returned to Brickton, and their independence was guaranteed for years to come. They became a safe haven for those in London seeking a simpler life. In the grand scheme of things, they were insignificant, and they wouldn't have it any other way. While the rest of the city marched on, Brickton remained a capsule in time. Change was slow in Eastminister following the fall of the gentry. The Good Samaritans were instrumental in keeping a semblance of order through the chaos. With their newfound autonomy, the flame of community spirit burned brighter than ever. The free and fair elections were not kind to the gentry, who failed to form a majority in the subsequent Parliament. As time went on, the law no longer turned a blind eye to their extractive policies. This financial shock caused a significant decline in the Westminster surplus. Now on equal legislative footing with the rest of London, the gentry redirected considerable resources into lobbying for their interests. This investment would ensure they retained their economic dominance. The Wayfarer retrieved all the lost plays for the troupe at Shakespeare's Globe. The theatre prospered in the New World as it had in the Old, entertaining the people of London indefinitely. The Vagabonds and the Isle of Dogs syndicate established a wary peace. Though true trust could never be established, the streets at least were more free of violence. Eventually, it became the new norm, and the times of constant warfare were looked back on as a red day, not to be revisited. The Thamesfolk disappearances, thanks to the Wayfarers' efforts, slowed, but they did not cease entirely. They would remain isolated in enclaves, forever looking behind their backs. Archie had finally found his place in the world beside the Wayfarer. Half sidekick, half friend. They were inseparable for the rest of their days. He never stopped adventuring, his sharp tongue getting him into trouble that he always barely squeaked out of. Kira continued her pursuit of treasure through the capital, always seeking greater and more daring gains. But though riches greased her palms, it was never enough, and so she decided to leave London, endeavoring to explore beyond the capital. Her new quest is to become the most famed adventurer in the world. Mad Jack returned to the only place he could ever truly call home, his gym. The crusade against the shadows of his past was not marked by the fall of his enemies, but the rise of a new Mad Jack. Once a mere haven for his own tortured psyche, the gym evolved into a sanctuary for the forgotten and neglected souls of London. Here, he imparted lessons not just in physical strength, but in the virtues championed by the Wayfarer. Arthur Mountbatten's mind slowly but surely began to falter. Before the darkness could take him, he would spend the remainder of his days making up for lost time. He helped others the best he could in this strange new world that he had helped to create. When the time came, he would ask the Wayfarer for one final favor, an end to his troubles. He would do it with a smile. For what better person could give him his death than the person who gave him life? And so, the Wayfarer's journey came to an end. But it was not the end of history, only the beginning. Because in mankind's pursuit of power, there is no price too high, no life too valuable, and no ideal too sacred. Because war never changes.
We'll meet again, don't know when, don't know